Now we will see about single responsibility principle. A single responsibility principle is a key concept in solid principles of object oriented programming. I will not only explain what SRP is, but also show you a real world code example, both with SRP and without SRP, so you can see the difference between them. So, what is a single responsibility principle? A single responsibility principle states that a class should have only one reason to change. Every software component, a class, a method, or module should have one and only one responsibility. In simpler terms, a class should do one thing and only one thing. This makes your code easier to maintain, simple to test, more readable, and less prone to bugs. Now let us see a real-time example. Let us consider a real-world scenario like building an application for student management. So we have a student class that handles storing the student data, saving student data into the database, and sending notification email. So without SRP, let us consider if the student class is having all the responsibilities. uh, Suppose like in the constructor itself, uh, we are saying performing the business logic and saving the student data using the save method and sending a notification email using the send email method. Here what are the issues we have is handling data storage, business logic, and email sending all are available in the single class. So the student class is doing too much. um, so it is violating the single responsibility principle. That means it is not having only one responsibility, it is having multiple responsibilities. For future changes in database or email logic could lead to bugs and maintenance issue. So to overcome this, we will see about how we will do it in SRP. For the same issue, we will go for creating three different classes. Like one is for student, which handles the business logic. Student repository will save to the database, and email service will send the notification emails. So here what are the benefits we get is like the maintainability. Each class has a single and clear responsibility, like what it should perform. It is having only one responsibility, so it is maintainable. Coming to scalability, changes to email logic or business database operations are isolated. That means that is not one thing is not dependent on another directly. And testability, you can test each class independently. Here we can test only the business logic directly uh, inside the student class, and saving we can test directly in the student repository, and email service we can test directly the send email method. So it is the testability is also very um, clear in this scenario. So now let us go for live code, and we will see how it is performing in each with SCP and with SRP and without SRP. Let us open the STS or any Eclipse IDE or any IDE you want. I am just opening the STS IDE. So here I am creating one Java project. I am naming it as solid demo, and I am clicking on finish. Now we have the project ready. Here I am creating two packages. One package name is without SRP, and other package name as with SRP. So now here I'll create one class naming with student without SRP. I'm clicking on finish. Here I'll create two instance variables called name and email. I'll create one constructor, parameterized constructor with these two variables. I'll right click, source, generate constructor using the fields with all, and I click on generate. Now I have the constructor. Next, coming to, I'll create two more methods like how we have seen in the without SRP, like save and send email methods. Now I'll just write a simple sysouts which will print a specific message. And I'll create one more method for send email. So now we will have one more main class which will execute this student without SRP. I'm initializing a new method, main method, and I'm clicking finish. So here we will just create one student and we will execute the two methods. Let us take any name. I am taking a student 1 and mail as student 1 email. So now I will call the two methods, the save and send email methods. Now we will execute this main method. So if you see, the saving student data into the database and sending email to the mail address. This we have achieved using the without SRP. The same logic will perform by creating three different classes and executing the same functionality. So In the solid demo with SRP, I'll create one class called student. In the student, I am just creating the two instance variables. Now I'll create one. If you see here, just we had discussed like only the parameterized constructor will go in the student class, and we will create one more get email method to fetch the email by creating a getter method in the student class. So we can easily fetch the attributes. So I'm right click source and generate constructor using the fields, and I'm generating it. Now I'll generate one more method called get email source getter and setter. I want only the get email method, so I'm generating it. So now I have created the student class. Now similarly I'll create one more class called student repository class. In the student repository class, we will have only one method called save to save the data into the database. So here we will use the same method which we created in the student without SRP, and we will copy paste in the student repository class. So here in the student repository class we have only one method. Here it is also satisfying the SRP principle, single responsibility principle. And next we'll create one more class called email service. In the email service we will create only one method called send email. The same thing we do, copy paste the same method from without SRP class and paste it here. So here we can't directly access the email. So what we need to do, we need to fetch the student object, and with the student object we need to call the email method. So for fetching the email itself we have created this getter method. I hope it is clear. So we'll create a main class and we'll execute the same code. I'm creating a main method. So here what we do is, first we will create one student object. Same thing we'll create student1, and mail will be student1@mail.com. We have the student object. Now we need to create a repository object. why we are creating the repository object is because directly we can't call the save method unless we have the reference for it. So that's the reason we are creating one more reference for student repository. So next, one more thing is we have one more class for email service. So again we need to create one more reference for it. So what we need to do next is, with the repository we need to save, but for saving in the repository itself we have created only the method without any student attribute. This is not correct, so that's the reason we need to pass the student object which we are going to save. That means if you want to save a particular student object, that student object needs to be passed to this method. That's the reason we are using. At present we are not performing any business logic with a particular student, just I am printing sys out. So that's the reason I am not doing any operation with it. So for the student repository we need to pass the student object, and similarly for email service also we need to do the same thing. Email service dot send email for the particular student. Here why I am sending entire student object to the email service is because we are not sure what objects are required inside the email template which we are going to send. In future, if you want only the particular email address, we can directly send modify this email service method to get only the string for the particular email, and we can send only the student dot get email for this method. So now let us execute this with this class student with srp main class. The output will not be vary. Here we have achieved our functionality with single responsibility principle. So in the conclusion, by following the single responsibility principle, we can make our code clean, modular and flexible for changes. I hope it is understood for you. Please let me know if anything required in the comments. Thank you.